And now we have the topic, which is the safe open spaces for, and first of all, we have Mr. Day speaking. Mr. Day, we have some questions on our agenda that might work as guiding questions for you.
Okay.
There's only 3 of them.
How do I make $1 million tomorrow? Is that the first
That's
question?
not the last one of the questions.
Okay,
I wish it was.
okay, good questions. May I start?
Please.
Okay. I'm Brad Day. I'm a volunteer, retired business owner, commercial property owner. I got involved with trying to figure out why we could not do a better job of dealing with the homeless problem in Albuquerque. If you own a piece of commercial property, it's almost daily that you have to go pick up trash. Sometimes you have to pick up human waste. You have to ask people who are trespassing to leave. I let them stay as long as they don't leave any trash behind. But if they leave any trash behind, the next time I see them, they're out of there. But that's a very tough problem. I have a medical building over here by Lead and I-25. A homeless guy got angry because the ladies in the medical building would not let him come in and use the restroom. Well, they do drug trials in there and they have to keep it clean, you know. And so he proceeded to take a giant rock, smashed one of the employees' windshield in 2 or 3 places, which I had to pay for, which I paid for. Then the next day he comes back. She wasn't at the front desk, so he steals her backpack, steals her car, goes all over town trying to use her credit cards, which was unsuccessful. The lady got her car back the next day, thanks to the police, but scared the living daylights out of them. You know, there's 20 women that work in there, right? Then the next day, one of the homeless guys who panhandles on the little off-ramp for the freeway, he gets high on meth. Guessing that's what it was. He's half naked. He comes over there, starts beating on the windows all around the building. And they had families and children and, you know, they were scared to death. Now, the police did show up in about 45 minutes. The guy was still there. And the officer talked to him, but there was nothing he could do because he didn't break any windows, he didn't cause any damage. But, you know, the tenant had to go out and hire International Protective Service, which I think was overreacting, but, you know, that runs about $70 an hour. And they had him sitting there 9 hours a day. So you can do the math. I mean, this is just out of control. And so let's start with the facts. Every 2 years, they count all the homeless people. In 2021, there were 1,600, roughly, that they counted. The city of Albuquerque did a count of people who were sleeping on the street, tents, or just on the street. There was 413 of them. There's 170 encampments that they counted all over town. Okay. So, you know, the question is, after about a year of research, I came to the conclusion that unless we change the zoning laws, the IDO, which is the comprehensive plan, and put in a new category called safe outdoor spaces, we don't have a prayer of making a dent in this problem. So I got a team together of IDO experts, commercial property owners like myself, and a CEO of a large nonprofit that deals with the homeless. We drafted the amendment to the IDO creating safe outdoor spaces. We sent it to the city council. 3 of them sponsored it: Bassan, Jones, and Benton. Then it went through a lot of twists and turns through all the meetings, that they had. But it did pass, and it's sitting on the mayor's desk right now as part of a larger bill that he appears to be inclined to sign it. So we have an amendment to the IDO creating safe outdoor spaces. Now, what are they? That's where we have a big misinformation problem. When people think of a safe outdoor space or a sanctioned encampment, as they like to call them, what they're thinking of is Coronado Park. Lawlessness, tents, garbage, drugs, killings. I mean, what kind of an image is that? So that's why the people up in the Northeast Heights literally scalded Brook Bassan the other night, because that's what they think is coming. They think the city council has authorized 2 of these things for every district in the city, and there's 9 of them. Well, that's just totally false. That is not true. There's several reasons for that. Number 1, you can only put a safe outdoor space on property that is zoned NR, which is highly commercial. You cannot have them anywhere close to residential neighborhoods. That's number 1. Number 2 is the fact that you can only have 50 people in each safe outdoor space. You can have 40 designated spaces, which will have a tent. There'll be a building that'll have bathrooms, showers, laundry, meeting rooms, so they can get some help when they need it. And most importantly, and if you don't remember anything else I say, remember this: they have lockable storage for their personal property. Now, why is that important? As you probably know, sir, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Sean, sorry. Sean, the mayor and the chief of police basically tell the officers you cannot arrest somebody for trespassing. Why? There's 3 reasons why. Rohr versus the city of Houston. Jones versus the city of Los Angeles. And Martin versus the city of Boise, Idaho. In all 3 of those cases, because there was not an alternative place for that homeless person to go who was trespassing or who was doing illegal camping in the city parks, which is what we have going on right now. If you don't have an alternative place for them to go and be able to take their personal property, you are violating their 4th and 8th Amendment rights. That is a key point. So, a safe outdoor space is not a sanctioned encampment. It is a facility that has basic services so that these homeless people can have some personal dignity. How would you like to go 3 months without taking a shower? Or not be able to use the bathroom? you have to go behind a dumpster or God knows what. I mean, come on, this is the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the world. And we have this? Well, anyway. So, we have a very small window where we're going to be able to make an application for at least one, perhaps two safe outdoor spaces. If we get two, we can take 100 people off the street. We could take everybody out of Coronado Park. Wouldn't that be nice? And the police can do their job for a change, which is enforcing the law. So, are these important? Are these safe outdoor spaces important? I bet they are, because they are a key element to helping the homeless get off the street and get into a place where they can have some personal dignity. But it also allows the police department to do their job, which is the first function of government, isn't it? To enforce the law. We make the laws, they enforce them. But you can't tie their hands behind their back. Okay, so anyway, that's my rabble-rousing speech. But suffice it to say, we have to act quickly. These safe outdoor spaces have rules. There's 35 rules, some of which call for immediate expulsion if you break them. Most of the time, it's 3 strikes and you're out. So this is not going to be for everybody, because there are some people on the street that are so mentally ill or so strung out on drugs or alcohol, there's no way they can be in a safe outdoor space. So what I'm thinking is that about 30% of these 413 that are on the streets right now would probably qualify for a safe outdoor space. So we can get most of them in 2. Okay? They'll be able to get a job because they can clean up every day. They're going to have a safe place. It'll be fenced. There's security. And the security, by the way, is provided by the people who live in a safe outdoor space. Now, where does this come from? Well, Camp Hope down in Las Cruces has been doing this for 11 years. They help about 200 homeless people a year. We are copying their model to the letter because they are successful. If we're going to get in the hamburger business, are we going to do the trial and error method, or are we going to go buy a McDonald's franchise? They know what they're doing, and that's why we need to copy them. So you have to apply to get in. There are rules, there's security. People have to put 6 hours of service in to clean up the camp, provide security, everything that's needed. And there's a manager and an assistant manager on site that are residents of the safe outdoor space who will be there at all times. So what I've done is I've gotten people that I know that are in the business community, because they are sick and tired of this situation too. It makes our city look bad. You know, new companies wanting to come to town, these commercial realtors, they have to be so careful of where they take them so they don't see Coronado Park, or they don't see what's really going on here. You know, they want to help out. So this is a private sector effort. It is not being done by the city council or the mayor. You know, frankly, I find it hard to believe that they couldn't come up with an amendment to provide some kind of safe outdoor space model where we could solve this problem. So, that's the way the United States is. All good solutions come from the private sector, not from the government. Not trying to diss all the government employees. I'm not trying to do that. They're valuable, but they have to have leadership. They have to have some kind of motivation to get this done. Well, my motivation is I don't want to have to clean up garbage on my commercial properties for the rest of my life. And so that's why I'm volunteering my time, spending the money to get the architect to draw it up. And these other 5 people that are on the team, they have donated all their time too. And when we get it put together, it'll be run by a nonprofit LLC, limited liability company, because there's a lot of liability involved. And we make these people sign a liability waiver when they come in. Doesn't always work, but it's a good first step. So these will be well-designed, well-run. We'll be able to probably get 2 of them in before the city council, who thinks that, I guess they think that they should develop all the rules and all the operational plan, which is nonsense, because all we have to do is look down to Camp Hope and we have the models. So what I'm here tonight to do is to try to help dispel this misinformation that's going on about what these safe outdoor spaces are. They are not a sanctioned encampment. They are not a Coronado Park type situation. There'll be a fence around it with screening. You won't even be able to see in there. And if things work out, we're going to put 2 of them not far from here in an industrial area, commercial area. And we would have enough room to take every person out of that Coronado Park over there. Why are they preventing all the citizens who paid for that park from enjoying it? They can't even go near it. I don't know about you, but I'm not walking my dog over there. So, enough. I gave you too much probably. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. You talk about 35 rules in the safe outdoor spaces definition. Where does all that come from? What document is that?
Camp Hope.
Oh, down in Las Cruces?
Yes, I've been down there.
So you're using their model?
Exactly. I'm buying the McDonald's franchise of homelessness.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Now, you're familiar with some of the city's restrictions right now, aren't you?
Painfully, yes.
Yeah. Like, what does the city allow for a commercial?
Well, the way it is now is the integrated development ordinance, which is the comprehensive plan. You have to have a section allocated to a specific use. The specific use is a safe outdoor space. Now, they don't have an operational manual that goes with that.
Who's they?
The city.
Okay.
They don't know what to do. Okay? They're not qualified. If they want to go down to Camp Hope and study their model like we did, then they might be qualified, but they're not.
We have a couple of comments. First of all, Mary Ann says this is also very important for public health and disease control. And Maria Wolf asks, do you see pets allowed in the safe outdoor spaces?
Yes, but they have to be controlled. They have to be on a leash when they walk them around. And if they go to the bathroom, they have to pick it up. Their pets will be cleaned up after. If they don't, the pet's gone.
With them.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I showed it late. I thought you started your presentation. I came in. Where do you plan to put these 2?
I can't tell you yet because we're in negotiations to, get the get a lock on it takes a half acre to do one of these, 22,000 square feet.
Okay, you're under the assumption that the people at Coronado Park are all gonna follow?
No, oh boy, am I glad you asked that question. Here's the choice. Because we have an alternative place for them to go, where they can take their personal property, which is a safe outdoor space, the police officer can come up and say, sir, you are violating the trespassing rules of our city parks. You cannot be in the city parks after midnight until 6 a.m. in the morning. And if you're there during that 6 hours, you are trespassing. And the penalty is 90 days in jail and a $500 fine.
Yeah.
It's almost laughable. Where do you think they're gonna get $500? And they're used to sleeping in the worst.
My point exactly. If you're homeless and I give you that choice, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna take a tent of your own with bathrooms and showers and laundry and all that? Or are you gonna go to jail for 90 days?
Well, you know, we were sold the tiny house concept, but using the premise that you're using, and you can see that that's not being used. And the county commissioner was even looking for $9,000 homes while these were being used.
You know what? That's another point. I'm glad you brought that up. What does this cost? Well, the Family and Community Services Department has over 1,000 people that they're giving vouchers to, housing vouchers, okay? They average a little over $900 a month. So they're spending between $11 and $15 million a year for housing vouchers. A safe outdoor space, counting the management, utilities, paying for the building and the land, it runs less than $200 per month per person. So we can house 4 to 5 times as many people with the same money.
All right, we have a few other comments here. If safe outdoor spaces are located in industrial areas, how do residents access food?
The residents of the safe outdoor space, well, just like they do now. If I'm in Coronado Park, I'm going to go down to the Rock because they serve meals down there on 2nd Street, right? Okay. Or I might go to St. Martin's. Or I might go, I mean, there's a number of places they can go. They know where they can go to get a free meal. They understand that real well. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, continue.
Well, what I was going to say is, the reason why more of them do not want to go to a shelter is because they lose all their personal property if they get on that bus. They cannot take their personal property with them. So they lose it. Now, most of what they have is, you know, junk. I mean, but it's their junk. And for them to lose everything they have, except what they can put in their backpack, I mean, that's nonsense. You know, that's not right. That's why the police have had a hard time being able to get past these cases that have specifically outlawed arresting people for trespassing if you don't have an alternative place for them to go where they can take their personal property. That's a violation of the 4th Amendment. Seizure of property.
Stolen.
No, you can't say that.
But I did, as coming here, riding on Broadway, right in front of Albuquerque High, there's this big encampment. I don't know what he's got under this, but a big cover, yellow cover, and he's sitting there on the steps, looks perfectly healthy, and they're not going to have him move. I mean, and he's actually walking the street, and no one's going to want to walk through it. But I'm just getting at the point that there are many people who are not going to go along with this, and it's not just that they're worried about this stuff. They've been accustomed to this lifestyle And I know no one likes to live in the street.
Well, if I have the ability to arrest them for trespassing and they don't want to go to a safe outdoor space, I am very happy to take them down to jail and book them. So you're going to get 3 squares a day, but you're also going to be somebody's girlfriend, probably, which is not, you know, a pleasant thought.
Mr. Day, I just want to introduce our other panelists. We have City Councilor Brook Bassan. Thank you so much for being here. And we also have Dr. Elizabeth Holguin. And I believe that I can't see them, Mr. Day. Can you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sort of ducking and bobbing around you. So we have Dr. Holguin, Councillor Bassan, and, well, we have Mr. Winterbottom, who's one of our council. I just want to say that Mr. Day is speaking first because he's pushed for time. So Councillor Bassan and Dr. Holguin, you will get your place in the sun, I promise. And I just wanted to very quickly ask our new commander, Commander Garrett, what his response is to what do you do about homeless people that are on sidewalks, on spaces? You can't take them to jail, can you? In theory you can, but...
So I am aware of the court rulings for public spaces. Sidewalks are a little different because it is impeding traffic. Right? We don't want individuals to have to step into the street because the sidewalk is impeded. So we'll actually go out there. There's city ordinance for obstruction of sidewalks and things like that that we can enforce. Parks are a little different, but any officer that goes out there for those things, there's already laws on city ordinances on the books for obstruction, impeding traffic. So we'll actually go out there and I agree, we can't arrest our way out of these problems, but that doesn't mean that enforcement action can't be taken. Does it have to be jail? No. Could it be a citation or a summons to appear in court? Can they go out there and offer resources from different entities of the city? It's trying to find the perfect situation for that person because we can't treat each individual the same way because their circumstances are different.
Mm-hmm.
But for sidewalks and private property, there's nothing that if you own a business and you have your own private property, there's no trespassing signs, we can enforce those.
With all due respect, I have tried that route. You call 242 cops because it's a non-emergency. It's not a 911. I would say that on average, I've been on the phone 45 minutes to an hour and a half and nobody answers the phone. When I did get somebody to answer the phone, one time in the last year and a half, the guy said it's going to be 4 or 5 hours before we can get out there. Now, what the commanders have done is they are very gracious in saying, we'll try to put an enhanced patrol in your area. I just did that with one of my medical buildings. But it's if they have time kind of a thing. And these guys are so busy clearing 911 emergency calls that trying to, count on that is
Mr. Day, your 10 minutes is expanded.
I know,
Three.
sorry.
You are an eloquent and wonderful speaker, but we need to move on to our other panelists.
Well, I hope I've dispelled some of the misconceptions about what is really going on here. Because we are, now, if the city somehow prevents us from doing this in the city, the county is waiting with open arms. And we're going to have to put them in the county. But we are going to put them because we have to solve this problem. We cannot wait for another year or two. So we have 300 people in Coronado Park instead of 100. They're already starting to encroach on Lava Land Park on the west side. Every park in town has got this problem. Anyway, I really appreciate your time.
Mr. Day, just one more, ma'am, if you don't mind. I understand, well, it's citywide, countywide, this whole problem. I live by Harvard Lateral, they try camping out there, I'm in the county, a big corporation right next to me. But what about the city bonds? I mean, why can't they use city bonds as a help to help these people do these open campgrounds?
Because if the integrated development ordinance does not have the language for a specific use, which would be a safe outdoor space, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't do it.
But it's our money, and why doesn't the mayor?
Well, you're gonna have to talk to the politicians.
No, I'm not a politician.
Well,
No, I
there
mean,
is-
but there's one right there. You can talk to them.
You guys need to use the city bonds for this terrible problem we have in the county. And
Well, anyway, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Okay. If you, the microphone has about a 10-foot range, so if you're back here, have a seat here, please, and I'll be able to pick you up. Okay, great. We have a lot of questions. Should we go on to our next presenter?
Are they
First
related?
of all, could we just introduce the people who are not on?
I'm
the
so
board?
sorry, we didn't introduce ourselves at the
you.
beginning. I was just so nervous about being in person for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm Rowan Wymark, I'm the co-chair of the Valley CPC.
I'm Tom O'Keefe. I'm a member of the Valley CPC. I live in Matthew Meadow, just a little bit north of here.
Thank you.
Martisa, I'm the CPC office assistant.
And I'm Phil Jameson, I'm a member of the CPC.
I'm Melanie Lewis, and I'm a downtown neighborhood association neighbor, and I'm also a community school coordinator for Longfellow, Lew Wallace, and Eugene Field Elementary Community Schools, all located in the downtown area. Edwina Cairo, co-chair of the Valley.
Laura Trujillo, Valley Crime Prevention.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Garrett. I'm the Valley Area Command for the Valley Area Command.
Pat Martinez, North Valley native, very concerned about all these things going on with the homeless and the developments. I understand the developments are also being given city bonds to develop out in the north side of the city where they could be applied to this problem.
I'm Will Hoffman. I'm a member of the North Valley Coalition of Neighborhoods for quite a long time. And also with Faith Works, which is a faith-based organization looking at the concept of safe outdoor spaces and sanctioned encampments, not unsanctioned like Coronado Park.
Would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry.
I'm Kelly Mentz. I'm the CPC coordinator for the city of Albuquerque.
I am Francis Armstrong with the South Broadway Neighborhood Association.
Okay, before we go into all the questions, and in the interest of time, Dr. I know you have a PowerPoint presentation, Dr. Holguin, but I just want to get a brief reaction from Councilor Bassan about what Mr. Day had to say.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I want to start by clarifying that I am well aware that sanctioned encampments and the definitions, the difference between Coronado Park and a safe outdoor space exist. I know that these safe outdoor spaces are not going to be more replications of Coronado Park. However, I do strongly believe that enough, almost a huge majority of Albuquerque, from all parts of Albuquerque, not just my district, not just my neighborhood, from all over, has indicated that they are not comfortable with the concept of safe outdoor spaces at this time. I think that we do need to find a humane constitutional way to assist those in need who actually want or don't even maybe know they need drug addiction, behavioral health treatment. We can't just arrest people and make them have a girlfriend. I can say that. I do not agree with that. But I also definitely think that, you know, we need to focus not just on the misdemeanor laws that are being broken, because I understand, and I said this yesterday and I'm going to start probably continuing to say it, that our city has come to a certain point where there's so much information. There's so many different types of restriction, whether it's the McClendon settlement, court-appointed settlement agreement, the fact that we have, you know, these other needs, we're worried about the Ninth Circuit. I think that we need to really prioritize filtering out what is a true reason why we cannot enforce, whether it's the federal government or any of these other agreements that we're under, and what has become just an excuse because we've become accepting of it. And I even need to figure that out, because I think that one of the reasons that we cannot enforce laws is something like a misdemeanor, and some citations for just trespassing and loitering, although I want us to do it and I'm going to fight for it. I understand where some of that is a problem. However, when I visited Coronado Park a couple of weeks ago, someone was sitting there under a sweatshirt smoking something. And I can tell you, I've seen people smoke cannabis. I know what that's like. And whatever this was definitely not cannabis. And nobody did anything. So to me, when you're going to have consuming drug use, open drug use in public that's against state and federal laws, we should enforce those. Let's focus on felonies. And APD is working their tails off to do everything they can, but we can't just lean on them. And we certainly can't ignore the demands, the cries, and the pleas of Albuquerque coming from around. So I want to start over. I want to listen to the community, and I want to figure out what the best next steps are.
Thank you for your, and we'll want you to speak some more, of course, but right now we want Dr. Holguin, if you want to do your PowerPoint.
Thank you so much. And I am Elizabeth Holguin. I'm the Deputy Director for Homeless Solutions, as well as the Clinical Advisor for the city. I do want to say that I appreciate Mr. Day's passion for the topic. There were, however, many inaccuracies that I'd like to address in what he stated. What he's envisioning is maybe his own vision or mission for a safe outdoor space, and I will sort of present what the city is proposing, as in family and community services. And I do agree mostly with what Councilor Bassan has said. Where we disagree, I think mainly is the point that, you know, she has to listen to her constituents, and people around Albuquerque are saying they don't want this. But as Mr. Day brought up, many people, and what you see on the news when we talk about safe outdoor spaces, they're showing Coronado in the background. So I believe people's opposition is based in misunderstanding and misconception. So I would urge us all to move forward with a viable solution. And I also want to say, I just acknowledge that we are not saying safe outdoor spaces are the solution to homelessness. It's one of many tools in our toolbox. I like to think of people all along a spectrum, and there's going to be people always at that very kind of lowest beginning point that are not ready to move into housing or into a rehab facility. So what can we do to make it better at that point? It's certainly not Coronado, right? So this is the city's idea to make the environment better for those that are at that point in their life, okay? So I'm just gonna share my screen here. I also want to say I am a nurse practitioner. I have a background in public health, a PhD in health policy. So yes, I think in that sense, but I'm also a small business owner downtown. My husband has actually been stabbed coming out of a restaurant with chefs by someone on drugs that was unhoused. So and we have to clean up things all the time. So I certainly am thinking of it from the issue from both angles. Just so I think that helps people understand where I'm coming from, and I'm not unrealistic or living in sort of a fantasy environment here. So these are some slides that we actually had shared with City Council, and we consulted a lot, and we had some of our staff and certain city councilors in the past have been able to go to Denver to the Colorado Village Collaborative, where they have 3 safe outdoor spaces in operation. So we consider them subject matter experts and a really nice model to mirror our programs off of, should we do them. So they started there, and they're able to now even obviously still mitigate the impact of COVID because people aren't sort of super crowded together in different tents or however they might organize themselves now on the street. They, as Mr. Day mentioned, give sort of an access point to resources like healthcare and case management, job resources, meals, things like that. And as we all see, I don't think anybody wants to see people on our sidewalks and under underpasses for a variety of reasons. This idea would sort of consolidate everybody and also make it more efficient for people that are providing resources to find their clients. You heard Mr. Day mention his vision of a safe outdoor space. This is kind of a menu of services that can be provided. What the city is envisioning is definitely an opaque fence that is locking. We would actually provide security. I love the Camp Hope model where the campers are serving as managers and security for the camp. But again, to be realistic, our crowd, especially at Coronado, is a bit rougher. So I think it would only work if we had actual security enforcement in the space, at least for the beginning. And then my hope would be to transition to a Camp Hope model later on. So we would provide, there's no building like he mentioned for bathrooms. It would be porta potties, portable showers, hand washing stations, unless an institution like a private business or a church or faith-based organization wanted to open their building up to people to use the facilities. Meals are always provided. Sometimes there are other things provided like electricity or Wi-Fi. Some even do tutoring for families. And I think we're all envisioning this as tents, and that's what we talk about, and those are the pictures I have. But under the umbrella of safe outdoor spaces, there's also safe parking programs. I think we've all seen, especially in other cities, lots of RVs broken down and just parks anywhere. We don't want to have people's cars and RVs parked in our neighborhoods, right? So another option is having an organization that's willing to donate their parking lot to do a safe parking program with the same sort of numbers that Mr. Day mentioned, about 40 to 50 spaces, parking spaces or tents, and then however many occupants are in each family there. So these are some examples from Denver. So as you can see, you don't really see, it obviously doesn't look like Coronado. You're not seeing a mess. Another benefit in Coronado right now, you might walk by and see someone with 20 bikes outside their tent. Lots of litter. One of the regulations in safe outdoor spaces is that you have to fit everything you own inside your tent. The city is actively pursuing a bid to create a safe or a storage program for encampments. So it helps people to either be able to relinquish their items to either go to a shelter or come to a safe outdoor space, because that's a major barrier right now where people don't want to give up their things. And sometimes when they are unhoused, they enter into a sort of a hoarding mindset. I think many of us would. That's sort of natural in that environment. But also getting rid of some of your things is sort of that step towards obtaining housing. because you can't carry all those kind of things into an apartment should they receive one. So we envision also purchasing matching tents. They use ice fishing tents in Denver because of the weather. This is what the inside of a tent looks like. So you have a storage bin, and again, you would get if you chose to be part of the storage program, you would get a 96-gallon, just our garbage can containers is what that is. And you may strap one bike or a piece of equipment to the outside, and that would be your limit for the free storage for 90 days. And otherwise, you can keep your personal items in a bin like this, little chair. And again, some outdoor spaces have electricity run all the way through. This is the other model. This is Camp Hope in Las Cruces that Mr. Day was speaking of. I actually did go visit as well. So I'm aware of how they run things. I got great ideas from them. I do like their structures that they have, but I also like the idea of just having a little bit of a cleaner look, which raises people's spirits. So I do envision the matching tents. I want to see planters. I saw somebody in the question ask about community garden. I love that idea, and I think those kind of things are absolutely what we're wanting to see in a safe outdoor space. What Mr. Day mentioned about people, just everybody getting out of Coronado and going to a safe outdoor space, that's not going to happen. Realistically, again, we have rules. That's how safe outdoor spaces function. Everyone would need to agree to sign a form saying that they will adhere to all the rules that we are laying out. In addition, this is not a walk-up situation. Not anyone can come in and camp, which again would lead to other issues. So we are asking that anybody who camps in a safe outdoor space is actually referred to us from one of our outreach teams within the city, like Albuquerque Community Safety, or one of our partners that we help fund. A very good one is Heading Home runs Albuquerque Street Connect. So we're envisioning referrals like that. And again, the entrance is locked. There's only one entry and exit point. Visitors cannot come. So this is an example of the rules from the Colorado Village Collaborative. I know Mr. Day mentioned at Camp Hope they have 35 rules. You will see here that I have crossed off the no substances. And I know that people are going to have strong feelings about this either way. But if you know anything about the tiny homes started by the county, they stated that there could be no substance use. There's 3 homes built and people are camped outside of it. It is national best practice to house or shelter people before beginning to work on their substance abuse or behavioral health issues. That's why we would allow substance use in the tent, just like any of us would be free to do at our home with nobody knowing. However, there is no drug dealing. There is no drug use outside of the tent. There is no drug trafficking. And obviously there are no weapons, no physical violence, no verbal abuse, no starting fires, no disruptive behavior at all. You can come in if you are impaired, but not impaired to the point that you would create a disturbance, if that makes sense. And again, we try to strive for all of our shelters, the gateway shelter that we're making to be low barrier to allow for the most access to those. So again, yes, pets would be allowed as they are in Camp Hope. We have the city-funded security. The campers would be responsible for trash removal, or at least into the receptacles that we provide, and then solid waste would pick those up. And I think one of the major incentives is that they do not have to clear out every 2 weeks like we're doing at Coronado and other places right now, which is heartbreaking to watch, frankly. And I did go speak to people at Coronado Park. I spoke to 42 people. 40 supported safe outdoor spaces. They themselves are tired of the violence and the litter. So I was actually surprised, but they were very supportive, and they even with the fact that they would have to give up many of their possessions. So I think that's a good sign going forward here. So like I mentioned before, there's many services that can be provided. And I have gone out with Street Connect and Albuquerque Community Safety, and I found it's a great service, but we spent all morning climbing down into arroyos and under underpasses to see 4 people who hardly wanted to come out of their tents and speak with us. I think that's an inefficient use of resources. If people were consolidated into one area, there could be a schedule of service providers that come to the location. That way everyone knows when their social worker is coming or case manager, and get the services that are needed, get connected to job training or job opportunities, get onto the housing pathway. And we also have, the city has already funded a street outreach coordinator position housed within First Nations Healthcare. So their job is to really oversee and coordinate and make sure that all the outreach coordinators and outreach providers are collaborating and are not duplicating efforts around the city. So I think that role would be instrumental with our safe outdoor space sites. I think it's just important to remember, and this again, where I want to highlight a discrepancy from Mr. Day. We can't, again, just round everybody up and even send them to the county, okay? We have to maintain people's civil rights. We have to understand that people have had many traumatic experiences, and sometimes going to shelters is not ideal for them. It's actually very painful, especially the West Side shelter, which, although I'm working very hard to create improvements out there, it's a jail, okay? You can hear the shooting range right there. That's not a great place to go, to stay, when you've had experiences in your life that are hard to deal with. That's why people prefer to camp sometimes. In addition, some people actually do work that live in Coronado, and they stay there because the West Side is too far away and they cannot catch a bus early enough to get to their jobs. We would be able to identify more people that have current housing vouchers, as well as, like I mentioned, get into the coordinated entry system and get more people on that pathway to housing. Again, also identify people that are able to get into behavioral health services or an inpatient rehabilitation service. And I think it's important to highlight that sometimes an outreach provider has to connect with the same person 10 to 15 times before they accept services. This issue is a lot more complex than many of us ever realized because of their lack of trust and, again, their past experiences. So it's not as easy as like, here's your resource card, go get housing. They don't have the trust or the relationship built up. So an environment like this would help foster that trust and stability for people. And that is all I have.
Councilor Bassan, what would be your reaction to that? The way that it's mapped out with such care and attention, does that change your outlook a little bit or not at all, or?
No, so it makes me happy to hear you ask me that, because it makes me think that maybe, anyway, like between the beginning and now, I really thought living lots and safe outdoor spaces was going to be a really strong option for the city of Albuquerque to do something about homelessness. I will say that living lots, I proposed it. I really thought that that was going to be the first step. So it was going to be the lowest barrier. It was something very similar, truly similar, but not in the same location as maybe a Coronado Park, because that's where we could say to people, you do you without hardly anything, but you can't do it anywhere for the city of Albuquerque. That failed the council, and I accept that and respect that. Safe outdoor spaces is a higher barrier, more detailed, more costly, more permanent, more restrictive approach that, although it might work, it certainly has in other cities. It is not temporary. It will not allow for us to just say, if you don't go to a safe outdoor space, you will go to jail. It will not open up the opportunity for us to effectively identify who needs services while also increasing enforcement of our laws. I do have a question for Ms. Holguin, Dr. Holguin, my apologies. If so many people, because I didn't know the statistic you just mentioned when you said you asked 42 people, and 40 of them said that they would go to a safe outdoor space. And I believe you said that that was at Coronado Park, or was that just around? Okay,
That was at Coronado, yeah.
So I think that's great news to hear. But my question is, why aren't these people taking advantage of other services that are offered? Because there's many other nonprofits. It's not just an option of the West Side Shelter. There are many people. We do have a ton of affordable housing vouchers. We are trying to get them out. So what is going to be the difference, do you think, in their opinion, of why they would accept a safe outdoor space versus one of the other options that is out there?
That's $1 million question, and I struggled with that. Many of you may not know I'm sort of new to this position. I started in February. I believe that the reason, I think a lot of it has to do with substance abuse and mental health issues and the ability to have rational thought, to be honest with you, combined with past trauma and not wanting to go to those services. And again, like I've heard from my outreach providers, that you can't just go up to somebody one time and say, here's some services, call them up, go on down. Because there is just a huge lack of trust, or even probably faith in our system. Obviously, we haven't served people super well before. I know we don't have a great housing capacity in our city, which is on trend with many cities in the nation. It's not just our issue. But yeah, maybe they're tired and it's just a complete kind of giving up feeling almost.
Thank you for that. I think that that's possible, but I think that what I've gathered by truly trying to open up, and I mean, I've been very humbled recently, everyone, and I'm not ashamed at all. I'm proud that I can say I want to listen to the majority of Albuquerque, and this is not what they want. But I think that from what I'm gathering from a lot of what people are saying to me, and what I want to say is going to be my opinion, and I could be wrong about it, but 40 out of 42 people at Coronado Park say they will go to a safe outdoor space, and I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because maybe they will, and I hope they would, but a safe outdoor space has a lot more to it than just saying something else. And so I think that that's part of what Albuquerque is expressing some extreme unease about. And so I did see a couple questions about what would I do as a first step, and I had a step. I tried, and I definitely realized that I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to work to revisit other options. So if I had to pinpoint what I want to do now, it's going to be to go back to what I was saying earlier about filtering, finding a way to filter what is an excuse of why we are or are not doing something versus a reason. Looking at successful cities, because, and again, this is another thing that I think is really big, is to recognize that we keep hearing this is a nationwide problem. I agree. Homelessness is a problem that is spanning nationwide, but it is not a problem in every single city nationwide. So let's find the cities that this is not a problem in and figure out what they're doing. And instead of doing something new, let's just do what they're doing. There should be no pride saying we have to come up with something ourselves. Let's copy something that's working and let's implement it here so that we can all feel more comfortable with it and we can make a difference. And then the third thing I would say is I definitely and very clearly have learned that I need to for sure listen to the constituents much more and be really open-minded about everything so that maybe the constituents will have some ideas and we can try what they have, because I'm not an expert in homelessness or addressing it. And I certainly have never claimed to be. So I want to hear from people who think that they have an idea, because even if it's bonkers and off the wall, it might be something we should be open to considering. And then the other thing that somebody had asked was, let me see, somebody had mentioned a large portion of folks are being evicted because they can't afford the rising rents here. Rents are rising everywhere and it's awful for many people, whether you're on any spectrum of income. And so of course it's impacting the most vulnerable even more so. So we did just put in over $25 million in affordable housing vouchers. I really am trying to work with the landlord community, with the public, with the different nonprofits, with anybody that's providing housing vouchers. We need to find a solution in combination with, I do believe that we should renovate motels. I believe that that's an option. They're a viable working, living area where people can go. It doesn't have granite countertops and wolf ovens, but there's a lot of people that would be really, really happy to have assistance to be there. And I think that we need to discover more options that are low barrier, give access to people, while also making sure that we focus on increasing everything we can to increase drug addiction and behavioral health services. And then lastly, I also want to add in that at this point, I think that we need to identify who the drug dealers are. Let's try that. I mean, not who's doing the drugs, who's dealing the drugs. And I'm sure APD is working on that. However, if people are not able to deal drugs as much in Albuquerque or anywhere, then where are people going to get their fix? And what is going to change after that?
I just want to respond to some of your points. I also, I know that's what they told me at Coronado. I was encouraged by the positive response. Do I believe they all would go there? No. I'm also, a fan of law enforcement. My husband was former APD. I know how hard their job is. Yet I'm also a proponent for, there's going to be people, I'm not denying, there's people that just aren't going to do it. They're not going to do anything. They are doing bad things, whether they're housed or unhoused, right? So yes, I believe that the city is attempting to take steps towards increased enforcement right now. They recognize the issue, and I'm glad to see that those discussions occurring. As far as Councilor Bassan talked about, let's look at what other cities are doing. I had a very great meeting with somebody who runs an organization called Community Solutions. They have an initiative called Built for Zero, and it's to have sort of like an effective zero rate of homelessness. There, of course, there'll be somebody that's homeless in every city, but what they do is provide a framework to really effectively see how we are progressing, because even though we have a framework, we have 6 areas of concentration, from prevention to shelter to outreach to housing, but they help to analyze, like, maybe you're doing all these really good things, but are all these really good areas making the impact you think they are? Maybe not. So we are looking into rejoining. We had joined in 2018, and then COVID occurred and it sort of fell by the wayside. So I am going to revamp those efforts and start attending workshops and hear from cities that are similarly sized with similar homeless issues, so that we can begin to learn from each other and start making some real change here. And that initiative is also supported by the county and by UNM. The last thing, we are actively searching for a motel or hotel to convert into, these are not transitional housing units, these are actual permanent housing units, efficiency apartments, and they would be required to have 40 hours of services each week there for the residents. And we also had an amendment passed that our department, Family and Community Services, would have sort of some administrative oversight to those locations so that people cannot begin creating sort of not great environments for people to live in. I think those were the main points, and we're very grateful for we have about 15 million in new housing voucher money that we haven't had in the past. So I'm actually leading a group to create a strategy about how we're going to spend that and make it most effective, and couple those housing vouchers with case management, which is an absolutely essential tool, as well as things like landlord mitigation funds to help pay security deposits, other fees, things like that. So we're really looking at the entire picture and putting this housing voucher money to the most effective, efficient use we possibly can. And we'll have that plan ready to go by the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1st.
Actually, we have some new comments and questions. Is that right, Mr. Mensah? So
Yes, we also have Mr. Molina.
we also have Mr. Molina, who's here representing Councillor Benton. So Mr. Molina, he is his policy specialist, is that right? Is that the title?
Yes.
So, Mr. Molina, if you have anything else to add from the point of view of Councillor Benton, now is your moment.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Molina, policy analyst for Councilor Benton. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it in tonight, but I did want to attend and listen to the presentations, and it's been very good. I see the points made by Dr. Holguin and Councilor Bassan. Councilor Benton is, as one of the sponsors for Safe Outdoor Spaces, is really just looking for a way to help the city with the homeless issue with Coronado Park. Coronado Park has been something in the district that's been happening for over 10 years, and it's something that he doesn't agree with. And although much of the discussion tonight is even with the Safe Outdoor Spaces, it's not a silver bullet to cure or fix Coronado Park. We have to look at different measures, and I know that Councilor Benton is committed in looking at different ways and opportunities. I just want to say that Councilor Benton is always looking for different ways to approach and fix, try to help fix the homelessness in Albuquerque. Affordable housing remains one of his top priorities as well, and he's a big advocate for that. But this is a great discussion, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. Do you want to go through the comments and questions, Mr. Mensah, or me, as I can read them, whichever one you prefer?
It's strictly up to you.
Strictly.
I'd like
We
to
might
ask
have some questions in the room.
Go for it. Yeah, we also have questions here. So anybody that has a question?
I'm wondering, with Councilor Bassan and Dr. Holguin, maybe 2 months ago, Pete Donnelly published in his blog a proposal by two ladies, I've forgotten their names, but they suggested that rather than have tent cities, which have a lot of shortcomings in terms of living there during the winter or big storms that we occasionally get, to build a campus that would have dormitory type housing and facilities for cooking and bathing. And it would be rather large. It wouldn't be 18 of them. There might just be a couple, but it could accommodate everyone who wanted to participate in that. And I'm wondering if either of you are aware of that proposal, and if you are, what do you think of it?
I can respond first. I was actually not aware of that article. It sounds like a nice idea. Again, it's kind of where the funding is coming from. That would be a little bit more expensive than safe outdoor spaces. And a lot of times we're met with opposition from surrounding neighborhoods for any solution. That's what people, I think, need to understand. I'm open to anything, honestly. Like Councilor Bassan, I'm not a homeless expert. I have a huge background in public health, the social determinants of health. So I'm well suited to think about this in a very systemic way. However, which I think is a benefit, but also a drawback sometimes. We're looking at things like converting the top floors of parking garages for people to stay in for additional shelter. I love the dormitory idea. I think what we need to stress is that the city or government in and of itself can't do it all. We can't. We never claimed to be able to. What we are conveners, we're partners, we're funders. I would love to come speak with anybody who has an idea, has the initiative to start something, and support them in any way that the city can. We need other ideas. We need other options. This is an incredibly huge, complex issue. And it cannot be solved in one way. There's a million different reasons why people have ended up homeless.
May I respond to that real quick? I had a question as well. Sir, are you talking about Judy Young's approach?
I've forgotten their names. That sounds familiar. That might be it.
Okay. Well, and so I definitely have heard about it. It's definitely on my radar for an option. My concern is, given that people are opposed to safe outdoor spaces, which would house potentially maybe 40 people, I don't know how people would actually feel about a much larger capacity dorm with a whole bunch of individuals with high level needs, probably inside. And if we're concerned about managing a 40-person location, how is that going to look? So when we're talking about needing to plan more for any options, and people are really uncomfortable with a lower level of that when it comes to capacity, nothing else added to it, I'm just talking population, then to me, that is something that I imagine might be another high concern that we'll end up hearing about. And if I may, I did see another question. Is that all right if I just kind of go straight to answer that one so that I can?
Can I just say that we would not support a huge number of people at any one location? We've learned from the West Side Shelter, we learned from other cities, we're not in the business of warehousing people just so people don't have to see them anymore and not acknowledge their presence. It's not a good practice. So I am in support of the dormitory idea and the environment and the shared kitchens, love it. But it would have to be at smaller capacities and at scattered sites.
Well, it's kind of tiny houses, isn't it? Which is up in the air. And that's all I'm going to say, because there's another question here.
Go ahead,
Jameson. I just want to say very quickly, Dr. Holguin and Councilor Bassan, if you could put your emails in the chat, and people who feel they haven't had their questions and comments answered here, because there are a lot of them. If they have your emails, they can email you and ask you those questions, because we are running a bit low out of time. Not low, but a little low. Mr. Jameson.
Thank you. what I like about the presentation from Dr. Holguin is that really the safe outdoor space is just an opening for all these other services with I would guess, an ultimate goal to see how many people we can get back into permanent housing. What I didn't hear from her is from places like Colorado where she's looked at it, if they have any data on how many people are actually moving out of the villages on, and into more permanent housing. And that's my question. My comment about this whole issue is that, to me, it's really just a public safety issue. I'll start with the police, since that's our business. I think for the police going to Coronado Park and dealing with a lot of drug users and the craziness on the street doesn't feel safe for them. And certainly for what I've got from a lot of people I've talked to, and they're not in the Northeast Heights, they're all over town, is that this is just another example that makes Albuquerque feel unsafe. That these people are basically out of bounds and they're not sort of living in a stable, lawful kind of way like we want to. And we have to think about solutions like the safe outdoor space or whatever it is to more efficiently move people into something that makes also the people who are homeless feel like they're part of the community and they're in a safe place. Because that's the third constituency, is just the people who are homeless, which is a shifting group all the time, which I guess includes domestic violence victims and teens and veterans and mentally ill and just everybody. It's not all a bunch of crazy chronic homeless people. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think, what we can make, and I think it's a good practice to, if you agree to be a resident or camper of a safe outdoor space, you must be actively working towards housing and employment. It's not just to sit around and have s'mores all day. Okay, it's not like, here's your home now. Again, this is not a permanent solution. It's not a good solution for someone to live there forever. This is for the people that are in the roughest spot that they could ever be in. And it's a place to get them out of that and on the pathway to stability.
Rowan?
Yes?
Jones?
Yeah, but Melanie's next and then you, sir.
Hi, yes, I'm very happy to hear about the increased money for vouchers. As a community school coordinator, I've worked with numerous families this year who have become homeless, and it's been very frustrating to obtain vouchers for them. And I'm definitely interested in the safe spaces because I have families who were looking for safe spaces in their cars and they couldn't find a place to park. They couldn't get a voucher. And so we're hunting all through the community to find out which community center, like the one by Eugene Field, can they go to where they could come in and shower? Or is there a safe parking lot somewhere for a woman and 2 kids to live? And I feel very passionate about this because I've spent the last year trying to help numerous families, and I'm in contact with several people living in tents right now who would happily go to a safe space, especially the kind that Dr. Holguin is talking about. So I really would push back on the number of people who are not in favor, and who are we asking?
I just want to mention, thank you for that. I was able to visit APS administration and those that specifically work on the McKinney-Vento initiative. And we were able to hear from a mother who is currently unhoused, and the stress of going from couch to couch, house to house, how her 2 boys were dealing with it in school is just, again, incredibly heartbreaking to see and think about your own kids or myself as a mother being in that situation. So we just want to have the safe outdoor spaces are a tool and are going to be helpful for some people. For others, they're not going to be. But it's for some. And I think if we can keep finding solutions that are good for this group and this group and this group, pretty much that sum is going to end up being almost the whole.
And then Doctor, if I can add to that, in many ways, I agree with a whole bunch of it, but it's originally when I went down this path with all of the impressions and planning and working on the legislation, safe outdoor spaces were never going to be an option for mothers and children and families. It was not going to be it. So this is where we do need to work.
But the
on
safe
affordable
parking,
housing, but we need to work on the affordable housing vouchers. We need to look at other opportunities and other locations. So we're in agreement,
absolutely. Yeah,
but it wasn't,
absolutely.
safe outdoor space is not where we were going to put the families and children that are living in cars. That's something else that we were working to identify and put into a different location that would be safer for all of them.
Well, safe parking programs do serve families for that very reason, so they don't lose their car. And they can get gas vouchers and other things like that. But the city does also operate a wellness hotel, which is specifically for families, because we don't want families out of the West Side Shelter. We want, it's a bad crowd. We want kids to be close to go to school, parents to be able to go to their jobs, which is specifically why we made the choice to not have families there and open up this hotel and continue to fund it for millions of dollars, because it's the best thing. So we have over 300 people in there right now.
And it's my impression that we're looking at opening another one. So we recognize that there is a need for families to have somewhere safe to go, that they can park their car at these wellness motels.
Right.
So, I mean, they're not going to lose their vehicle. This is where we need to still consider that. But to me, we're talking about two different things when it comes to a safe outdoor space and helping families and children in need.
I agree with you, Councilor Bassan, that I would not want to see, and I don't think we've ever envisioned families in the safe outdoor space in the sense with the tents and things like that. But I have seen many cities that have families stay in the safe parking program, especially if they have an RV, because they'd like to stay together in that way with their property. But I agree with you that I think a wellness hotel is ideal.
I apologize,
People don't choose that.
but we're running towards a hard close here. And so there's a gentleman in the audience that has a question, and I really feel we need to get through at least some of the questions and comments. Don't forget to post your emails in the chat so that if anybody wants to pursue the questions and comments they have, they can email you directly. But the gentleman has a question.
Yeah, it's not a question. Share a lot of information. I was at the Gateway Center meeting in the basement of the convention center 3.5 years ago. It was very well run. We had a small group of 30 people that was had a lot of synergy and stuff. One person was a drug counselor, had a good perspective. The biggest thing we started with, I mean, number one is you're dealing with 4 groups of people. You're dealing with true homeless, you're dealing with people with alcohol problems, with drug problems, and mental illness. That all gets grouped, everybody thinks it's homeless. Where I was working before, I had stressful days. I'd go across the street in the park and I'd talk to people and hear all their stories. One person said, yeah, I've got a job, but I can't make enough to have an apartment. You know, and so the stories are all over the place, the needs are different and everything. The big thing that we came up with was that in order to be successful, you have to have the services there for them that they need. You don't bus them anywhere and things like that. So in the end, everything in the beginning got all wrapped up on what the location was going to be. That's all the media focused on. And actually, when they came into our group and they wanted to film and talk, I'm the person that stood up and I said, now is not the time. We have a good discussion going on here. I do not want it disrupted. I'm disappointed in the media that all you talk about is a location. And I said, I'm sorry, the time is not now. They left. People in the room thanked me, the moderators thanked me, and we continued on. So in the end, where we came up, where we had all the services, and then we had 5 locations, it came up to be the Gateway Center over at Lobos, overwhelmingly. That was the biggest matchup that occurred out there. I just got back from San Diego. Imperial Street for 13 blocks is awful with homeless and trash and big tents and all that stuff going on there. It looks a lot worse than what's here right now. It doesn't make this any better here. One of the success stories was Salt Lake City. What they did was a motel, but then they had a building next to it with the services that were there. And when they did that, they created their own kind of mini community to be able to do that. With that, as far as funding, I think they should take the money for marijuana and use the funding for homeless and take care of the situation. When Denver started with the marijuana, they got $100 million, they put it to public education. The other benefit of that was that the opioid rate went way down in Denver or in Colorado, so that really helped with that. So I'm not sure what's going on. I try to find out what's going on with Gateway, and it's really difficult to find out any information. I'm hearing they're going to open something beginning next year. It may be women first because they're most in need. But I'd like to go out and look at the buildings out there, because I think where you talk about, what we talked about, that it would be a transition. You first bring them in, match them up to services, then help them to get a job. Then you could have some housing on the campus there and eventually get them to subsidized housing. And one of the benefits of having the whole community there was that someone could come in and see, I can get from point A to point D. They have hope and they can see what's going on. So I'd like to get involved again. I can't work for the city because I'm retired with para, but I would like to work on the issue. It's something I wanted to, but I couldn't for 3 years on there. But that's kind of the basis of everything going on.
First of all, please make sure you email me. We'd love to have your help. I'll just briefly say that the Gateway Shelter is just a piece of the entire Gibson Health Hub that's already operational with 3 accredited hospitals, 8 tenants total. Phase 1 demo is complete as of now. Phase 1 will be 50 shelter beds for women. When phase 2 is complete, we don't have a date for completion for phase 2. Phase 1 will be complete this winter. But when phase 2 is complete, it will be 50 single men, 50 single women, 25 families. The engagement center will be part of phase 1, which is offices that will house different social service resources like workforce solutions, clinics for IDs, different housing management services, things like that. We will also have half of our medical respite unit, which is for people to recover from surgeries or different medical procedures, or those that are ill and need clean water and a clean environment to heal. And then we also have our medical sobering facility for those that are in need of sobering. In addition, we have a first responder drop-off, which is the first of its kind in the city, that will have a few beds for APD, different EMTs, AFR, our ACS team to bring people to that are maybe just kind of down and out, but are not appropriate. They're too stable to go to the emergency room. They don't need to go to jail, which is currently the only 2 options for them. So this will help free up emergency room beds and give people the space to recover for up to 23 hours. And then they may be able to get transferred to another shelter or be admitted to the Gateway Shelter, depending on capacity and appropriateness.
So if we could make, there are a lot of questions and comments, and we have probably about 15 minutes, because that's all that Laura will need to give her crime report, and we do want to hear also from Commander
I'm
Garrett.
going to have to apologize and go ahead and go, but please email or call or text. I know I'm a little bit behind on communicating with people, but I am working on making sure that I get back to people as soon as I can. And thank you for having me. I really look forward to coming back again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being
Aren't you
here.
going to stay and learn
Great
about your
discussion.
community? Aren't you going to meet our new commander? Bye. Okay. That leaves Dr. Holguin for all the questions and comments, or shall we just?
Shall we just go to the crime?
We'll just go to the crime stuff. Dr. Holguin, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your PowerPoint presentation. And as you know, you have Dr. Holguin's and Councillor Bassan's email, and you can get a copy of this meeting, or you can watch it. It will be available on YouTube, is that right, Mrs. Seth?
YouTube is the website.
YouTube and our website.
And I sincerely appreciate the ability and the time given for me to come and explain some of the city's vision. And I appreciate all the thought that's gone into your thoughtful comments and questions tonight.
Kelly is just typing where I was going to go. I was going to say, please come in person to these meetings if you think you'll find it more interesting. You too,
Yeah, absolutely, but yeah, I'd love to.
Asking other people to come in person. And it's at the Johnny Tapia Community Center between Mountain and 6th. The parking is on Rosemont. And it would really make a difference to have more people here, though it's wonderful to have people online also. And as Kelly's just typed, if anybody's interested in joining our council, then please do email Kelly for details. Or you can email me at valleycpc@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Holguin. Thank you, Mr. Molina, for being here also.
Have a good night.
Just embarrassed to have it.